So, you're not sure what to bet. Don't worry, I got you covered. Welcome, football fans, gridiron gamblers, and my degenerates. It's Mitch. It's week 8, and it's time to give you my last minute best bets. I'm talking spreads, totals, and props. All the bets you should make if you're unsure what to do. And of course, this doesn't cover my best bets for the totals and the spreads, although I may need a little update on that because there's been some crazy quarterback conversation. He's playing, he's not playing going on. So we're going to solidify that in this video. But before I get to that, don't forget to spike the like button, guys. Don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 2K, and we're trying to make this the best community for NFL betting on YouTube. Let's get to it, man. Let's discuss some options that you have to bet this week that I really like. And we've been doing a great job, I think, in this video. Every single week, giving you some solid plays. Last week, very successful. We're going to continue that. And guys, if you're wondering, where can you get all of my favorite bets that I'm actually making with my real money every week? That's on Patreon, link in the description, link in the pinned comment, $5 a month for all of my actual bets that I'm actually making. I just listed for you guys my best bet, my favorite teaser, my favorite parlay, my favorite money line, or my prop, whatever it is. I put it in order, categorize it for you guys, and I give you my picks. So that is in the Patreon. Go check it out, guys. Link in the description. Let's get to it. Let's begin. And I'm going to work my way through a couple different bets here. I want to begin with the Patriots game against the Cleveland Browns because we are on the Patriots -7, one of my favorite bets of the week. We also like the under 40.5 in the game. I will be on the Patriots this week in one way, shape, or form, and I'll certainly have them involved in teasers this week. But there are props that I think are also kind of interesting, let's say. Drake May to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's at -110. Whenever you can get Drake May, who might be playing like the MVP of the NFL right now, and like the best quarterback in the NFL right now, at home, to throw 2 touchdowns, I understand that Cleveland's really good on defense, but this is a great price, near even money for Drake May. He's thrown multiple touchdowns in almost every game of this season. In fact, I want to say he's thrown multiple touchdowns in every game except for 2. The Raiders game and the Bills game, in which they won, and he could have had a possibility to do that, but they just decided to run the ball. Of course, you're always dealing with that, but here's the thing against the Browns. You don't run the ball against the Browns. They're probably the best run defense in football. If you're to look across all metrics, who's the most consistent run defense in the league? Who gets the most penetration and creates the most negative plays? Combined with the fact that the Patriots have one of the worst run offenses in the league, they're bottom 2 in the NFL in success rate. They're bottom 2 in EPA. They did look better against Tennessee, but that was the Titans, not the Browns. I expect this to actually be a pretty heavy pass script for New England in this game, especially early in the game, like the first half of the game. And I think New England will be able to get up in this game and be able to glide to a victory. So if that's the case, I think Drake May is going over 1.5. I also like Drake in this scenario, in this situation, in this spot, in this matchup, because the Browns are very aggressive defensively, which leads to explosive passes. And there has not been a better deep ball passer in the NFL this year than Drake May. So if anyone is situated to have success against Cleveland throwing the ball down the field, it's Drake May. He has the highest completion percentage on deep passes. He's the best deep ball passer in the league. So there will be opportunities before they even get to the red zone for Drake May to throw touchdowns. And when they get near the red zone or inside the 10, I don't think they're going to be able to run it in as easily as people think. So I think there will be potential play action situations for the Patriots here to throw it into the end zone. So I like the over 1.5 passing touchdowns at -110. I also like Judkins, the Cleveland running back, under 67.5. The Patriots are the only defense in the NFL that hasn't allowed a 50-yard rusher. That includes James Cook, who ran for 49 yards, right? I include James Cook in the conversation here because he's an elite runner and the Bills have an elite run offense. So when you look across all opponents, whether it was Genty in week 1, whether it be Rico Dowdle and or Hubbard of Carolina, who've been running the ball really well, you look across all opponents, Tony Pollard, none of them ran for 50 yards, okay? Judkins' prop is at 67.5. I'm going under here. Even if Cleveland can run the ball 15 to 20 times with this guy, I'm not sure he's going to pass and get 70 yards here. Because not only is the game script probably going to make Cleveland throw the ball, but also the Patriots are stellar against the run. And I just don't see them being able to create a lot of yards on the ground because they're going to be packing the box, New England. They're going to be forcing Dylan Gabriel to throw the ball down the field. So I like those two props in the Patriots game, as well as the Patriots to win the game, as well as the Patriots to cover the spread, and as well as the under, because I just don't think that they're going to go over 41, 40.5 with a one-sided game. If the game is something like 27-13 or 24-13 for the Patriots. So yeah, those are all the different plays for Pats and Browns. And I know that's why you guys are here, because you want to hear more Patriots analysis, of course. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike the like button. Just a quick reminder on the Bottom Line View, I will be live for this Patriots-Cleveland game, and we will be playing some fantasy picks live. I actually put together a parlay of May over 1.5 passing touchdowns and Judkins under 67.5. That was my parlay for the game. So make sure to join. I'll leave that link also in the pinned comment and the description as well for you guys to play along with me and join the live stream tomorrow. Or today, depending on when you're watching this. Okay, let's get to the next game, the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers. I like a couple props in this game. I think my favorite way to play the outcome of the game would just be to put the Bills in some sort of money line parlay and or tease them down. I think the Bills will win the game. I'm just uncertain if they'll cover a 7-point spread. If I had to lean either way, I'd probably say the Bills will cover, but I'm not 100% sure. Dalton Kincaid, I think he's going to play this game. I like his over here, 39.5. I think that Dalton Kincaid has to be the number one target for the Bills. If you've watched them recently, their receivers are just inept. Josh Palmer is out. Keon Coleman can't separate and probably will be dealing a lot with J.C. Horn. Khalil Shakir is a solid player, but he's not a difference maker. I think their number one option in the passing game is Dalton Kincaid. He had 100 yards against the Patriots. He had 2 consecutive, I believe, 60-plus yard performances. This number is just way too low against a defense in Carolina that's one of the worst against tight ends. They have very poor linebackers. You can take advantage of their safeties and coverage. I think Kincaid, if he is active, which I expect him to be, minus 120 to get 40-plus yards. I think that he is the engine moving forward for this passing attack. I expect him to be heavily involved off of play action in this game. On top of that, James Cook could be a sneaky over in receiving yards as well. They actually alluded to the fact, the coaching staff, that they want to get James Cook the ball more as a receiver. I'm not sure why this hasn't happened already, but his over-under is 12.5. I would take the over 12.5 receiving yards. Whether Cook is involved on mismatches against linebackers, like I said for Kincaid, and or he's catching screens, I think Cook will be more involved out of the backfield catching the football. That's been an element of the Bills' offense we have not seen this season, is Ty Johnson, James Cook getting involved as receivers. I think Cook is their best weapon, and he needs the ball more in all facets. Kind of like Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers, Bijan Robinson for the Falcons. Cook is a top 10 running back. He needs the ball in as many ways as possible. The Bills are desperate. They need to get the ball to this guy. I think that will be a big part of their game plan. So over 12.5 receiving yards, as well as Kincaid over 39.5 receiving yards. In the Bucs game versus the Saints, you guys know that I like the Bucs minus 3.5. I would not bet it if Vita Vea is out, but I'm pretty sure he will play. I would lay the 3.5, as you guys know. I discussed that on my spread best bets. Okay, that has not changed due to quarterback appearances or not. But some props that I do think are interesting. Cade Otton, over 34.5 yards. I'm not sure why this is so low. 3 straight games, Cade Otton has gone way over this number. Last week, he had a good game against Detroit. The Saints are not great against tight ends either. And Cade Otton is just that reliable zone coverage beating presence. Cade Otton is one of those guys that Baker can count on. And the Saints love to play their zone coverage. Without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, the only other receiver that has a strong level of rapport with Baker is Emeka Egbuka. Sterling Shepard is kind of washed. Tez Johnson might be able to feature in the downfield element or the screen element, but I think Cade Otton has become a bit of a third down chain mover and a mismatch for this offense, and that guy that the Bucs like to feature when all else fails. Like when they don't have Mike Evans and don't have Chris Godwin, Cade Otton typically does see a lot more uptick of targets. So I expect him to go over this number in this game. Baker should be hot for this one. He was like mad at the Saints for trying to injure him last season. And also, he just came off his worst game of the year after being touted the MVP. So I believe he will bounce back in the Dome at New Orleans against a lousy pass rush and a pretty poor Saints defense. I also think that Chase McLaughlin over 2.5 extra points at -105 is sneaky. I do think the Bucs will score 3 touchdowns in this game. I could see the Bucs getting close to 30 points in this game. So I do like the over 2.5 extra points. I think the Bucs will be ahead early in this game, and I think that will lead to them playing conservatively, not going for 2 like they did against Detroit, which will lead to extra points. And I do believe that they should be able to move the ball. Like I said, this is a good matchup for Baker, where the Saints have the 32nd pass rush grade in football, according to PFF. They also have pretty lackluster corners, so they don't like to play man-to-man like Detroit does, which leads to a lot of zones, soft zones. Baker's been eating that up all day, and that also takes away from the talent at wide receiver that is lost. When you play man coverage, you need receivers that can separate, but when you play zone, you just need guys to get to the proper spots. Shepard can do that. Otton can do that. Of course, Emeka Egbuka can do that. So I think Baker is going to feast here. He'll have a bounce back. I think they're going to score 3 touchdowns. So even, let's say, I think the projected total for the Bucs is probably around 27 for me in my mind. So I'd say like 27-20 feels right for this game, somewhere around there. Maybe 27-17, 24-17, something like that. I think the Bucs win. I think the Bucs cover. I think they score 3 touchdowns. So Chase McLaughlin over 2.5 extra points at -105, which is a pretty good price. Some other plays that I think are interesting. McPherson going along with that extra point deal. I think over 2.5 extra points for the Bengals feels good to me. No Sauce Gardner for the Jets. I do think the Bengals will be able to move the ball through the air. The Jets like to play a lot of man coverage, and without their number 1 corner against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, with Joe Flacco getting the ball out quick and playing on time, it's going to be difficult for the Jets to stop them. Also, with Justin Fields playing, I kind of think that will lead to more possessions for the Bengals. And the Bengals also at home have just generally played a lot better, like we saw against Pittsburgh. So I think McPherson should be able to get 3 touchdowns or 3 extra points for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's the way that I look at these bets. I'm actually like gravitating towards these this year, where it's like, I'm not just playing, okay, can this kicker, the kicker 99% of the time makes the extra point. So basically what we're playing here is, we're playing, can the team score 3 touchdowns? And I feel like the Bengals are going to score 3 touchdowns against the Jets, who I think are an overrated defense. So I like the Bengals and McPherson over 2.5 extra points. I also have flirted with Matt Gay over 1.5 extra points at -105. That's a good price. And I do think Washington's offense is underrated. They're first in yards per attempt in the run game. The Chiefs do struggle against the run. I think they'll be able to run the ball. Marcus Mariota adds to that element. Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel are back. Whether it's scoring early or scoring late and trying to backdoor the spread, if you're Washington and trying to make this competitive late, I think extra points for Matt Gay, 2 of them, does feel about right. I think they're going to score at least 14 points in this game. So I think they'll get closer to about 17-24 in that range. So I think Matt Gay as well over 1.5 extra points. So those are our extra point bets there for the week, but I like all of them. Brandon Aubrey last week was our best bet, and it was over within like the first 20 minutes of the game. So that was pretty fun. Now, Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football, I think, is going to be a lot of fun, and I think there's going to be some points in this game. So I like both the quarterbacks to throw 2 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers at -110, I think is a really good price at over 1.5 passing touchdowns. The Steelers have been throwing the ball in the end zone a lot. This is just a classic Aaron Rodgers thing. Rodgers also has the power to audible a lot more than other quarterbacks, which leads to more passing touchdowns, kind of like Peyton Manning used to be. And Rodgers is playing his former team. I think he's going to want to throw some touchdowns. I also think that the Steelers match up pretty well offensively against the Packers defense. The Steelers are actually surprisingly 8th in EPA per play on offense. They're a top 8 offense in the NFL according to EPA. They run the ball well. They stay balanced. They throw a lot of screens. The Packers are bottom 3 in plays allowed and time of possession allowed. So that's the way the Steelers want to play. They want to get the ball out quick. They want to move it, just slowly but surely. And then DK Metcalf should be able to feast on the outside against some pretty weak corners for the Packers. I also think the Packers still have some missing links on the defensive line. So Aaron Rodgers should be able to throw 2 touchdowns in this game. If you want to have fun with the game, but you're not sure if you want to take the Steelers or the Packers, I think cheering for Aaron Rodgers against his former team to throw 2 touchdowns is a fine bet. I would take it at minus 110. Jordan Love is minus 118, but I do believe that this Steelers defense has plenty of holes. The only scare here is that Jacobs ends up taking all the touchdowns away from him. So I actually maybe like the Rodgers bet a little bit more here because I think the Steelers offense is sneaky in this matchup as an underdog. But I do like Jordan Love here. He is a big touchdown producer. Christian Watson has returned. Wouldn't be surprised if he scored a touchdown in this game. And also, I just think that they have a lot of speed, and Tucker Kraft's going to be a problem for the Steelers. I think Matt LaFleur is going to drop some big explosives against this Steelers secondary that likes to play a lot of man-to-man coverage. And we saw the Steelers against the Bengals. It was not pretty on defense. Josh Jacobs also over 64.5 rushing yards against a weak Steelers rushing defense. Chase Brown had his best game by far last week. The Steelers might be better at home here against the run, and the Packers have struggled more often than not. But Josh Jacobs against bad rushing defenses has pretty much gone over this number very consistently. If I was actually to look this up, I remember looking it up, but I want to get the correct number for you guys. I'm pretty sure he's gone over this in 4 of his 6 games. I could be mistaken, but it's been more than 50%. So he's gone over 1, 2, 3, 4 times out of 6. He went under against Cleveland, who's the best rush defense in football. And he went under against Arizona with only 55 yards, but he saw less attempts in that game because he was sick, remember. So he's healthy, and in all healthy games and games that he hasn't played Cleveland, he's gone over against Detroit, Washington, Dallas, and Cincinnati. And the Steelers are a Cincinnati, Dallas, Washington caliber defense against the run. So I do expect Josh Jacobs to have at least 65 rushing yards. So I like that bet as well. Now, in terms of some totals and spreads that I think are interesting for the rest of the games, I think the Texans to go under their team total of around 20.5 or 21 is a good bet. I've actually seen this total for the game move up, which is really interesting. I like the under 42 in that game. I just struggle to see how both teams get to 20 points, and that's essentially what Vegas is asking them to do. The Texans have a terrible offensive line, and consistently we've seen 2 matchups between CJ Stroud and Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh has owned CJ Stroud both times. One game he threw for under 100 yards, and the other game he threw for under 200 yards. He has never thrown a passing touchdown against the Jets or Robert Saleh, and I think that will kind of continue. The Texans also can't run the ball, and the Niners are a top 10 rushing defense this year in most metrics. They're also top 10 in points per drive allowed. They're actually pretty good except for their pass rush, right? They're without Nick Bosa. Obviously, Bryce Huff is hurt, but their secondary is fully healthy, I believe, entering this game, and that makes a major difference in how Saleh approaches this opponent. No Nico Collins, no Christian Kirk, which means probably more man coverage and a blitz rate that will be high for the 49ers, just as it was against Penix and the Falcons. The Texans can't pick up a blitz, so I expect there to be some stops by the 49ers. I expect their defense to continue what they did against Atlanta in terms of what they were doing. Man coverage, blitzing. Because without Nick Bosa, they can't just drop back in zone and play the 4-man rush. Saleh knows that. He's smart. I like the under for the Texans in this game. I think this will be a grinder of a football game. Under 20.5 is a pretty good price. Saints, under 20.5 is also a solid price. Again, as long as Vita Vea does play. If Vita Vea does play, he's going to be pushing back a backup center because the Saints won't have Eric McCoy, who's a top 5 center in football. That's a significant loss for this offense. We saw the Saints totally drop off the map last year on offense with Derek Carr and company. And the Saints, They didn't look good against the Bears. I think without Miller as well, their change of pace back for Alvin Kamara, they're missing an element of their rushing attack. And the Bucs defense, I think, sneaky good. Their secondary is really good. They've just been beat up, but actually they're pretty healthy in this game. They're only really missing Kalijah Kancey, who's been out for like the whole year, and they're missing Hassan Reddick now. But between the Bulls blitzing, their strong run defense, which is going to force Spencer Rattler into awkward positions, and the way that the Bucs, Jamel Dean, and these corners are playing, I think the Bucs can hold them to under 21 points in this game. The Saints have also struggled to score 21 plus points this year. If I were to look up the trend in the Saints games this year, they also, you have to take into account that the Bucs, they might also be counting on their defense to play well because, I did say that the Bucs should be able to move the ball, but they do have a lot of injuries. So their defense is going to want to play well in this game and kind of show out and win this game for their offense. But when you look at it, they scored 13 against Arizona. They scored 21 against the Niners, but that was kind of garbage time. But nonetheless, that's one time they did score 21. Then the other time they scored 20 plus points was against the Giants, the game they won, 26. But otherwise, 5 games out of 7 where they didn't score 20 plus points or 21 plus points, right? So basically, in every game that they've lost 6 games this year. They have only gone over 20.5 points one time. So if you think the Saints will lose, the odds are in your favor that they go under 20.5 points in this game, especially considering the Eric McCoy injury. And then the spread that I want to add to the card is Washington. I preferred, obviously, this spread is moved to 11.5, which sucks. I was hoping to get 12.5, and I was hoping to give you that number. But 11.5 and 12.5 isn't all that different. Based on the mathematics, I mean, if it drops down, below 11, that is a little bit more of a key number just because, you think of games like 31-20 or 34-23. 11 is a little bit of a key number more so than 12.5. But I just think Washington with their receivers, and they are the number 1 rushing attack in terms of yards per attempt. Like, I think they can run the ball. And they're a much more competent team than the Raiders. Like, it didn't make sense that the Commanders were getting the same amount of points in a must-win game on primetime, in a rally the troops game for the Commanders. They're getting the same amount of points as a terrible Raiders team that Washington blew out. And I don't really think that Daniels and Mariota, the way they're playing this year, there isn't a huge discrepancy in their actual ability this season. I think Mariota is actually underrated. So, to me, if I were to play Monday Night Football, I'd play Washington plus 11.5. There it is, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know your plays in the comment section below. Of course, also check out my favorite totals, my favorite best bets against the spread. Those videos are already out, but obviously, I don't really want to take the Ravens anymore, minus 6.5, because that's obviously irrelevant because Lamar Jackson is probably not going to play. So just keep that in mind. Some of those things. It does look like Cousins will be the starter for the Falcons. If you want to know where I stand on that, I don't think it really matters too much. It doesn't matter too much. I would say maybe half a point difference, but not too much in terms of my opinion on that game. I still like the Falcons there. Thank you guys for watching. Spike the like button. We'll see you next time. Peace.